Good afternoon and welcome to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbitha Mwema. It's already the third day of December and a quite active one on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I'll give you an update of what was happening, but before I get into that, let's take a look at what was happening yesterday on the NSE. Turnover was up 10 percentage points to 780 million worth of turnover. Safaricom was dominating trades yesterday and is still dominating trades today. What is happening on the indices? We saw them all close in the green, closing slightly up, largely because of a 2% gain on Safaricom. NSE All Share up 1.83 percentage points to 146. NSE 20 share up 8 percentage points to 1,760.98, whereas the NSE 25 share index was up 27.82 to 3,282.34 points. Let's take a look at what was happening on turnover, which was up 10% on a day-to-day basis. So we have the chart there that has been tracking the last week of November and straddling through the first week of December. Beginning of the last day of the month, 30th of November, that was Monday, we had a huge trade in Safaricom, which culminated in a turnover of 1.7 billion. Yet, 1st of December, 710 million, again, another huge trade in Safaricom. Yesterday, 780 million worth of turnover from Safaricom. Today, we have just seen a 20.8 million ticket cross through on Safaricom. A lot of heavy interest from the foreign investors who have been putting up pressure in terms of the price and buying it at the 32 to now 32.95 level. Let's see who the top movers were by virtue of turnover yesterday. Safaricom, as I had earlier mentioned, 13.9 million shares traded at a price of 32.95 for a cumulative turnover of 457 million. Equity Group was also up there, trading 8.5 million shares for 35.3 shillings per share for a cumulative consideration of 301 million shillings. East African Breweries traded 20,600 shares for a cumulative turnover of 3 million. We did see a price uptick from 153 on the previous day to 155 yesterday. KCB was also there at 37 shillings, and we saw a negligible trade on BOC for 5,000 shares at a price of 380 for a cumulative consideration of 1.9 million. Let's see who are the movers by volume. Safaricom was certainly up there with 13.9 million shares traded. Equity, 8.5 million shares traded. Kenya Power, 936. Kengen, 272. Nairobi Business Ventures continuing to see a bit more of interest from investors, 133.6 thousand shares traded. This is a company that made a corporate announcement on Monday, listing additional shares and getting new shareholders on its book of ownership. And as a consequence, we did see the one-day percentage increment on Tuesday of slightly close to 700 percentage points on a day-to-day. Now let's take a look at what was happening on price movements yesterday on the NSE. Liberty Kenya, it recouped some of the prior day losses, gaining 7.92 percentage points to 7.36 shillings per share. East African Portland, a bit of movement there to 11.8. Diamond Trust seems to be gaining a bit of traction. It has now closed at 65.75, up 6.48 percentage points. This is actually becoming a psychological low. It has been trading at about 60 to 65. It's been a while before we saw it cross the 65-point mark. And at this point, we are seeing increasing investor interest and possibly an interesting entry level, largely because of its cheap valuations. Scan Group again is back on the radar. It gained 2 percentage points to close at 6.04, having hit a new all-time low of 5.92 shillings per share. Let's see who the top losers on the NSE were yesterday. Home Africa down 5 percentage points to 0.38. Kabasit now beginning to soften. It did lose 4.3 percentage points to 12.25. Absa also lost ground to 9.36. Olympia Capital also lost ground, and Nairobi Business Ventures also lost a little bit of ground to close at 5.2 shillings per share. That's pretty much what was happening on the NSE. Looking at other segments of the financial markets in Kenya, we did see a continued weakness on the currency. It's now at 110 trading against the US dollar. This has been a long time coming. We've seen a lot of weakness over this year, largely related to COVID-19. Now we have seen this currency drop about 8.7 percentage points, and now it's at 110, and we continue to still monitor that so that we can be able to relay that information on a day-to-day basis. On what is happening today on the NSE, it looks like it's going to be a very strong day in as far as turnover is concerned. Just before I came to this particular live recording, we saw 20 million shares traded in Safaricom today. It does seem like it was the same shareholder who's actually been buying this stock from 2.5 weeks back. At the beginning of this purchase, we did see 19 million cross, 20 million today, 13 million yesterday. This has been a thing that has been happening for the last 2.5 weeks. So some interesting and heavy foreign investor appetite that's pushing up the price of Safaricom. We take a short break. When we come back, I will be introducing our guest, and we will be having a virtual interview to understand the logistics business in Kenya. With COVID-19, we've actually gotten to see new business models emerging, and largely because of the restrictions in movement, we have seen this have a consequence on some emerging business models. We will be speaking to Mr. Patrick Katere after the break for him to give us an overview of what has been happening in this business segment and what are the emerging investment opportunities in that space. That said, nothing much else happening on the NSE today. All you need to know is Safaricom is now 32.95, accounts for 58% of the total turnover, or in other words, the total value of the NSE. We still think that it's fully priced in terms of the upside, but we are beginning to see a slight shift in terms of investor sentiment, largely because in as much as Safaricom did not make as much money from M-Pesa, the contribution in terms of the money that they are paying to M-Pesa agents is increasing on a month-to-month basis, giving investors the aptitude and the satisfaction that come January 1st, once Safaricom can charge, then it's all the way up from here on. We take a short break. When we come back, we take a look at the element of technology in logistics, and we will be able to have a one-on-one with Patrick Katere just to let you know what's happening in that space. We take a short break. See you in a few.